for life. Now where has it been? I mean the good old days.
Or to talk about online video games and the role of games in the content value chain. The Gaming Gains in Asia panel is sponsored by Singchana. To fill us in on the gaming possibilities and breaking news from Ubisoft, here's Graham Perkins, co-CEO Rune Entertainment. Graham, if you'd come out. Welcome. A round of applause for Graham. He's a great moderator. He's going to bring the fun, aren't you, Graham? You have a microphone.
Allegedly, Anita.
And I'm going to introduce the speakers panel. Olivier de Rotelier from Ubisoft, Ash Singh from Interactive.sg, Hitesh Mehta from Pink Catalyst Entertainment Private Limited, and Ross Pollack of Celestial Pictures. A round of applause for our panelists.
Thank you, Anita.
Thank you.
You having a good day?
I'm having a great day.
Good. Are you all
too.
having a good day?
Take it away.
Yeah. Thanks, Anita. Thanks.
Sure.
That's my seat, Ross. Sorry. Apparently I have to sit in there. Could one of you join? Let's balance it up. Olivier, come and sit over here. Yeah. That's all right. Is that all right? Apparently I have to sit in the black seat. So, hi guys. How's everybody? Yeah? Good? Good. So we're going to, I don't know if we're going to step it up a bit, but we'll try, shall we? 39 minutes and 2 seconds. It's amazing how time flies, doesn't it? Thanks ever so much for staying around for this panel. We're going to be talking about gaming. And it's quite ironic. Tomorrow I'm talking about money. And there's nothing to do with betting. So please don't think that gaming and money is the same thing. But we got some distinguished guests from all around the world here. And instead of me going through and introducing these individuals, I think what I'd like to do is to ask each one of our speakers to talk a little bit about what they're doing in the gaming space. Some are new to this area, some have been doing this for quite some time. And again, the same for many of you guys here. Can I just ask one question? How many of you guys are from brands themselves? A brand itself? One. There's a couple there. How many from agencies? Any agency people here? Good. Great. Anyone from manufacturing, transportation? I'm joking. Please laugh at my jokes, please. Anyone sweep the roads? No? Okay. So the first person I'm going to ask to speak is Hitesh. Hitesh, thank you for sponsoring this panel.
My pleasure.
Your pleasure. All the way from Mumbai,
Yep.
or Bombay as we call it in the UK still. I don't know why we still do that, but tell us a little bit about Singchana. First of all, what does Singchana mean?
Singchana means, Singchana in Mumbai as a local colloquial term, it means peanuts and chickpea. It's one of the most economical, nutritious food you can have in the streets of Mumbai. So we call it as a funny word, it's a punny word, and value for money. So the word sing made us evolve into the gaming stuff.
Right. And tell us a bit more about what Singchana is and how it works online.
Singchana is an online karaoke / sing-along gaming where you sing along a song and you compare your voice with the original song, benchmarking few parameters, scientific parameters, that is pitch and tone.
Right. And why singing karaoke is really not that popular in India. It's something probably more so suited to China. Why did you go down the route of choosing karaoke and not cricket or something like that?
Well, it was this word which really made us evolve into what we are right now. But we think there is a latent demand or latent desire of doing this karaoke. Maybe the word from Japan to India, it takes some time coming there. So maybe it is evolving and changing into Singchana.
Yeah, and do you make money? Big
No.
question.
We don't make money.
You don't make money.
Yeah, but we sponsored.
Not yet, anyway. So you have sponsorship and you have investment.
No, we're not making any significant money as so far. We're pretty startup stage.
Right. Okay. And you mentioned pitch and tone earlier on. I mean, how do you so there is actually a tracking capability online that you can actually see how people are doing. They can see how they're doing as far as
Exactly, there's a visual interface, which really empowers them to sing better, and that's how they engage themselves with, So you see the visual formats of the pitch and tone.
Right. And how big of a library do you have on Sing Chana now? How
We've
many?
got around 600 to 700 songs. One label we got signed.
Are they mainly Indian songs, or do you have some
Yeah,
Western
mix
songs?
of Indian and
Some Western songs.
Western popular
Oh,
songs.
okay, right, cool, excellent. Ash, hello.
How are you today?
I'm okay. Ash, tell us a little bit about what you've been up to.
All right, I'm the CEO of Interactive SG, and for the last couple of years I've been experimenting. And my experimentation is based on a hypothesis that traditional TV and social media and social gaming are intersecting. And so over the last 4 or 5 years, we've been involved with TV productions like The Contender Asia, which was the number one show on AXN, and The Biggest Loser Asia. We've also done a lot of social gaming products for a lot of branded content. And so over the years, we've learned a lot. We've paid a lot of tuition fees, as I'd like to say. And I guess part of today's session is to share some of the successes we've had and where we feel the next big thing is, because we think that 360 TV and multi-screen media is where the future is at. And it seems like the brands love it as well, so I'm happy to share that as well as part of our
But when you were
session.
working on those TV shows, you weren't actually working with the TV production directly. You were working on the online pieces. Is that right?
We actually did everything. I mean, we were involved
okay.
from a TV production side because I wanted to learn what it was all about. Even on a sales side, because way back in the day when you're asking for sponsorship, you can ask for a little bit more money for TV versus web. So I wanted to learn how to do that as well as the digital pieces. So we covered all the digital stuff, but that's always been in our genetic fabric. So that was relatively easy to do.
And without being too rude, but what is that on your head?
I'm actually wearing a turban right now, and I think the reason you asked that question is because on a side note, I'm actually well known for my turban collection. I have one of the biggest turban collections in the world.
Round of applause, come on.
Thank you. And usually when I give talks, usually when you're talking in front of a crowd, there's probably 30% of you who probably can't understand my accent or probably don't care about what I'm saying because you're here for the food. So I've actually created an app for you, right? So for all of those of you who are in the crowd right now that have an iPhone or an iPad, just go to the App Store and search the word Turbanizer. And
Is that with a Z or with an S?
it's with a Z, actually.
Okay, just
But
checking.
if you search Turban, it'll just come up #1. So if you want to download it, feel free to do so. We launched it 2 months ago. We have 25,000 downloads to date.
Very good.
So if you do download it, the only thing I would ask is if you could give me a 5-star rating, please. So it helps my downloads. So I've been very involved promoting the Turban worldwide. So for those of you that don't have an iPhone device, check ratemyturban.com as well as turbanizer.com online.
Do it, do it.
Thank you.
But seriously, you are extending this. It's not just about people going online. Like you were saying, I mean, seriously, I couldn't believe this when he told me which country is downloading this the
Yeah,
most.
so for us, like, we experiment with a lot of things. So obviously I love turbans, and I was like, let me start an iOS, let me make my first app. So the app that you guys are downloading, I can see like, wow, a lot of you guys are downloading it right now. I see you guys on your devices. We launched it 2 months ago, we've had 25,000 downloads, and this is a product that was made here in Singapore, but 65% of my downloads are happening in the UK, right? And yeah, well, we thought it was at the airport, but we don't know where it might be specifically. But 65% is happening from the UK. And I guess that's a sentiment to where the world is going. You can build a product in a place like Singapore, and you can have a mass market appeal in places like the UK.
Wow.
Are you doing one for Yarmouthus?
That's coming up, actually. That's in the version 2.
But you are taking it further. It's not just about putting a turban on your head. It's about the gameplay elements that
Yeah,
you're looking
absolutely.
to introduce.
I mean, we're getting a couple of thousand downloads every week now, so we're going to introduce the gamification elements, and we'll grow it. And I think we can have 1 million downloads this year.
Good. Let's
So
hear it for
it'll
1
be
million.
fun. Yeah. Thank you.
The first thing that Ross is going to do is download the app when we leave.
I
yeah?
have it.
You got it
I have
already?
it, yeah.
Well done.
I
Ross,
pirated it. I gave him a 1.
is there one for Hong Kong? Is that what it is?
There's 4, actually.
There's 4 people.
Maybe your
Yeah,
kids
we'll
as
do
well.
Ross, welcome to Singapore.
Thank you. It's nice to
Um,
be here.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about what you're up to. you've got this vast library.
Right.
Maybe you'd like to explain a little bit more
Sure,
about what
they're
you're
putting
doing.
some of the slides up here. Actually,
Yeah.
this is one of the first times this has been shown. We're
exclusive.
actually, yeah, it's almost exclusive. We're actually a Chinese studio. So about 10 years ago, Astro out of Malaysia bought the entire Shaw library. And we have 2 channels here in Singapore, currently on StarHub, which is Socio Movies, Socio Classic Movies, and we'll soon have the same on Singtel. And in addition to the channels, we also distribute these movies, and we're in film production and TV drama production. So I guess the question is, what are we doing here with the digital space? But
Yeah.
what we realized is that these movies, which you can see in the in sort of the window in most of these slides, that's the original movie from the 1960s and 70s. And we realized that if we're going to reach new audiences, younger generation, the digital natives, that we had to translate, so to speak, or reinvent our library into something more relevant for younger audiences that wanted content that was cool and hip. And while the Shaw Brothers library and the old movies are fantastic and fun, they may not be described as cool and hip. And so we're working with a LA-based firm, as well as a couple of comic book artists in China and in the United States to essentially start what I would call like a Marvel Encyclopedia project, where we're extracting from our top movies the main characters and then redrawing them, as you see here today, with the ultimate goal to essentially create social network games, web-based games, animation, feature films, merchandising, licensing. In essence, create a parallel universe to the classic Shaw library with a new Shaw library that we hope the content's a lot more approachable, contextual, and something that audiences can play with and feel more comfortable with. And this is the beginning of that.
You're at the very early stages as well, Ross. Is that correct? This is really just conceptual, as you say.
We've actually only done about a dozen characters or so. We're doing a series of Chinese characters. These are actually the Western characters. These are not the ones that we'll be using for Asia. These are the ones that we'll be using in the United States and North America, South America. And then we'll have futuristic characters. But we're at the beginning. We're looking to do about 180 characters by the end of August.
What was the decision process on which characters to do first? Was there, most popular characters that you would go after? Is that what it was?
It was essentially the most popular character. So we went through the library, and like this one right now is Five Deadly Venom, which is a classic title. This one is Come Drink With Me. So we picked the top Shaw titles that were known internationally.
Amazing. A vast library of content there, which is great.
Thank you.
Last but certainly not least, from Singapore, but French, Olivier. Welcome. You've just moved office, haven't you? You just moved to a new office in Singapore.
We moved to Fusionopolis Phase 2B.
Right.
So just a bit of history about the studio. I started the studio, Ubisoft studio in Singapore in July 2008. And we are now 200 developers. And we had this interesting challenge of coming here at interesting time. So first, for those who don't know Ubisoft is the #3 publisher of video games in the world. And at that time in 2008, my first objective was really to leverage what Ubisoft the know-how of this company. It's been building high quality content for video games. But at the same time, I could not ignore the digital wave that was coming. It was already there. So during these 3 years, I've built my teams around 2 main topics. Building high quality content. We've been working on a big franchise, Assassin's Creed, Prince of Persia. We were working together with the Montreal studio in co-production. And at the same time, we started iterating on different prototype and trying new things around the online. What online means in the video game industry, it's very broad, from distribution to gameplay to social, etc. It's a lot of different things that we had to explore. And what is very interesting here is we found people who had this this experience of playing free-to-play games. There are a lot of free-to-play games here in Asia, but they had also this experience of playing, I would say, console game, which is not you don't find so many people playing console game in the region. So they had this culture of the two regions, so Western, I would say, and Asian culture for business model. And thanks to these people and the help also, we brought some talent from the US, from the UK, from France, etc. We've been able in 3 years to build some very interesting stuff. So, yeah.
Well, actually, we do have an exclusive, don't we? And before we show a clip, Ubisoft made an announcement last night, and this is the first time we're going to hear about this in Asia. So maybe you could first of all talk about what was announced last night at midnight.
Yeah, we announced the first, I would say, HD game fully made in Singapore. It's a online free-to-play shooter, but with it's free-to-play. So for us, it doesn't mean that it's low quality. For us, we wanted to come with high-quality graphics, high-quality gameplay to provide to our consumers. So yesterday, we've announced this new game that will be closed beta in June, and then after we'll open the game to everyone. So yeah, that's a major step for the studio here in Singapore, but also for the Singapore industry, in the game industry, so high-end games. And also it's a major step for Ubisoft as we are gaining more presence online too.
Can we maybe we can roll a clip to show a preview of that game? Fantastic.
Thank you.
You can clap, by the way. built in Singapore. Completely built in Singapore.
Yeah, completely done in Singapore.
Fantastic. I didn't see anyone wearing a turban. I didn't see anybody wearing a turban in that clip. No.
But
We
we
should
can
add the
customize.
Turbinizer
We can
engine to
customize, so we
the
could add
Tom
it.
Clancy game. That would be a good joint venture. Yeah, yeah. I mean, we're both built in Singapore, right? So we might as well, right?
Well, actually, you just said a word there, collaboration. And one of the things I would like to maybe now expand upon a little bit is that form of collaboration, which, you know, films are very much a collaborative process, and so is a gameplay and building games. And it's very hard for one organization to do it all by themselves, you know, develop story, develop gameplay, the technical side of things. Maybe if I could just go around the panel again and just, you know, free-for-all discussion about collaboration. Hitesh, you know, when you developed Singchana, how much of it was, you know, as you say, you're in the startup phase, so there's what, 2 people in your company at the moment?
At the moment, or when
Yeah,
we started?
when you started.
When we started, we were just 2 of us.
And now you are?
Now we are on 12 to 15 people.
Right, okay, so you're developing. So, but the collaboration process, were you working with other people outside of Pink Catalyst, which is your company?
You mean to say organization or?
Well, I think it's not just it's the full process of how you get
Yeah.
a game.
We are
to,
working with
market.
individuals who are outside our company domain, you know.
Right.
That's how we are trying to, as a start of bootstrap, you know. So
Yeah.
there are people working with us from Japan, from Spain, from Tokyo.
But do you need like partnership from other organizations? Like obviously you need to collaborate with record labels.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so that partnership, we've struck one deal with Universal Music Label India Perspective. So
Right.
now we will be, hopefully, you know, we'll be telling them, hey, this increase the shelf life of their old songs, you know. This is an innovative way to kind of, you know, bring back and, you know, give the experience to the user, you know.
Yeah.
And you cannot pirate an experience, so this
Right.
can be an interesting thing.
And Ash, I mean, when it comes to collaboration, obviously when you were doing the work on the TV, you were learning internally, but again, was Imagine Omnimedia collaborating in that space as well?
I mean, you know, what I guess, you know, over the years we've seen a lot of differences, changes happen in the media sphere. And I mean, over the last, I guess, 20, 25 years, the TV space has been very stagnant, right? You have a TV production house that does something and they execute it for you. But what we're starting to see, I mean, our latest project, The Angel's Gate, which we're producing right now, needs the collaboration of a TV production house. Then you need an expert development team from a social gaming perspective, and then even an app team, right? Because when you're creating content, it has to go across, and someone that can tell a good story and share something from a TV production standpoint doesn't understand a UI on a Facebook or on an iPhone app. So all of these pieces are very essential, and I think one of the challenges you have is the element of storytelling. Because you can tell a story from a one-screen perspective, but as you move it from TV to the web to mobile, and you have your users engaging across the board, you have to make sure that not only is your user interface good, but your storytelling weaves collectively and you can take it forward.
Actually, that leads me nicely to, I mean, Celestial is based around story, isn't it? It's all about story. So when it comes to those areas, how important is that to you?
It's very important, and Ash was on his project that he's launching. That's something that we're focusing on as well when we look at launching new content for Celestial, taking a he calls it 360. Another word for it is transmedia approach. But essentially, it doesn't really matter where we start with the content. We could, for example, in some of the images I showed, we could decide that it makes sense to start with a video game or some sort of, as I said, social network game. We could start with a film. We could start with an animated series and build audience. But every step of the way, we'll be collaborating with third parties to build the content and to distribute the content and to, in a sense, blow up the content and spread it to as many consumers through as many different pipelines as possible. I mean, that's our objective.
And actually, Olivier, so I mean, it's not just about development here in Singapore. There's every opportunity for a Celestial and a Ubisoft to partner together to develop something that may be an IP related to Celestial that you guys can develop as a game. So collaboration is definitely possible in this part of the world?
Yes, of course. I think there's something very interesting about what you were discussing, the story arc, the transmedia experience. It's very difficult in many sense because you have a brand and the most precious thing is the brand. So and usually the brand comes from one support, and you can extend it to different support. But each new support or platform is also the first door for many consumers. So if the quality of your content somewhere else is not the same quality of your main support, it can be a big issue because you're facing consumer everywhere. But for sure that's the future, building brands and being able to expand this experience to other universe. What I find very interesting with the new tools and that we are not really discussing is how you can involve the consumer also in building your story, because we are coming with all these new games, this new platform are coming with social interface, forums, etc., where you see suddenly the interest of a certain consumer focusing on something that you even didn't imagine, and based on that you will build the rest of your story or the next piece of your story. And the engagement and involvement of your community in the storytelling is also something that is really revolutionary, I would say.
Well, I think you've raised a very good point. It does lead into the area we do need to discuss, is how we do engage consumers more when it comes to gameplay and gamification.
Yes.
I think the technologies are enabling a vast change for us all in many aspects, and I think in game, what's happening, how is Ubisoft approaching cloud-based gaming or cloud-based content, the whole tablet and mobile environment? Are you looking at each device individually as separately, or are you actually looking at how they amalgamate as one experience?
So individually, if you look at the tablet for a game, you have a lot of standalone games. So there are new opportunity for gamers to play. And what is very interesting is you see now on the iPhone, iPad, on Facebook, the first application that people use, there are games. So they expand the opportunity for people to play, and that's a good thing for us. I think the very, very strong thing here, and what we are looking into, is how we first reduce the barrier to entry, meaning that cloud gaming, if you look at the cloud gaming, it could allow everyone to play and will not depend on the PC you have or on the console you have, etc. And that's very interesting. Second thing is the friction. The user experience using this kind of technology, cloud gaming, for example, will reduce the friction. You don't have anymore to download a big client that will last for hours, etc. It's everything around, friction in the user experience. Everything which is around accessibility is very, very interesting for us to consider. And then after, if you look at the full picture of how the landscape of the game industry, if you look at the full picture of the game industry, if you look at the console, you see that it's an experience with a stable framework where the console provides you a stable CPU and memory, but together with a strong experience interaction with the controllers you have, etc. And a service layer that is also very important. And if you look at what we have now on the market, the new tablets, they are an opportunity to play standalone games, of course, but they are maybe also an opportunity to have in every house a new kind of controller that could interact with any content on your TV. When you see the forecasts in terms of number of the number of tablets that you could have at the end of the year, and maybe in 5 years, that will be in every house. So that could be an amazing tool to control experience in front of the screen, and you would not depend only on the full integrated chain of controller and console and service. When you look at the cloud computing, it can provide you a stable environment that everyone is looking for. When you buy a game, you don't want to think about your graphic card or your CPU, etc. It can provide the consumer a stable experience, and for me that's less friction, and that's very interesting. So there will be a lot going on with all these new devices, new technology, and I think that's very interesting.
Ash, what's your take on the technology side and how it's changing? The new devices, the amalgamation of these devices as new storytelling platforms.
Yeah, it's interesting. I just got my BlackBerry Playbook on Friday.
Well done.
It's a great device. I mean, contrary to what some people say, I've actually really enjoyed it. And I think what I'm starting to see is that, there's a couple of good platforms out there, but it's basically ubiquitous now. I mean, if you look at from a technology standpoint, aside from like Tom Clancy games, which are really, really high HD stuff, for the vast majority of us, we just want to be able to get our content. So whether it's on a mobile, whether it's on on your BlackBerry Playbook or your iPad, you just want to make sure that it's accessible. I think that's the first thing. But I think one of the key elements too, and I want to address this in front, because I know that there's agencies here, there are brands here and stuff. I think the engagement piece is the most important thing, right? Because you have all this technology, which is great. You know, you have all these really cool things, but how do you actually get the consumers to engage and stay engaged and stuff? And I think that's where the real value proposition starts to happen. That happens from a brand perspective because, you know, you want to get your consumers out of their seats to do something, engage, and use location-based tools to go run around, or use a crowdfunding platform to go, you know, set up a business and start driving with it. There's a lot of different things. So I think as the technology evolves, this element of, okay, how do we get these people out of their seats? And if you look at it, I mean, you look at Nintendo, what Nintendo did to Xbox and PlayStation over the last generation of game consoles, they got it right. They got them out of their seats, they got them doing stuff and being engaged, and ultimately it wasn't necessarily a technology innovation, it was more about them staying engaged and ultimately winning the last generation of console wars.
Definitely. Ross, engagement, I mean, your take on how technology is going to change. I mean, you say you're at an early stage, but how technology might change the way you're engaging your consumers.
Not necessarily much to add to what Ash has said in terms of engagement, but it's critical for anyone creating content, distributing content, that they look to find a way to engage the consumer, to have the consumer be able to feel that they can interact with the content. To some extent, we're looking at opportunities for consumers to take some of our characters and create their own stories, and I think that's what Ash is talking about, engagement. I think that creates a higher value to the consumer, and they're likely to stay longer, play more, and feel it's something much more interesting than a more passive, just take a look at the content type of viewing experience. And I agree with him. That was, you know, the whole Wii was a game changer. People got up, they started playing, they moved around, and frankly, the other gaming platforms, you know, had access to the Wii, and they just sort of poo-pooed it. They thought nobody was going to take it very seriously, and it was a huge success, and obviously a game changer.
Hitesh, obviously there's technology at the heart of what you're doing with Sing Chana, in that you're tracking pitch and tone, and it's important that people can check how good they are against the real singers. How important is the future of something like, you know, Sing Chana, with the potential of moving to other devices?
It's very important. I mean, we think such scientific methods will really create more interesting features for people to engage. There's organic way how you can really engage people actually. And when we move to different platforms like Ash is having Playbook, so we hope to see our stuff and Playbook, you know, and when you can easily plug into your bigger television and have a great time, you know, have a great karaoke party at home. So this is with respect to our product, you know.
Yeah.
But I see that such rationale stuff really will relate with people, the user, you know,
Yeah.
and they really relate with that, and they create a byproduct out of that. Now that really makes them feel empowered.
That's true engagement, yeah.
Yeah.
Do we have any questions from the audience? Is there anyone out there that would like to ask a question of one of our panel or the panel? If you are, you're going to have to stand up or raise your hand. They don't bite, I can assure you. Do we bite? No? No questions? Nothing? Okay, well, I'll carry on then. I may just wrap up with one last question for each one of you, because we have 7 minutes. 7 seconds, yeah. Correct. Thanks, Ross. If I may, as one thing that's obviously very apparent is everyone's in sort of startup mode. It's early stages for a lot of people. It's all very new. I think it'd be nice to understand some advice from each one of you with regards to the pitfalls and some things that people need to look out when it comes to game development, gameplay, story. Lots of questions here, sorry, but you might want to pick up on one element that you might want to think about with regards to advice you might give the audience regarding developing gaming games in Asia. I mean, Hitesh, what pitfalls have you suffered as you've been developing this game?
I think the user interface, backed with the good functionality, that's very important. I mean, you have to really get the user when it is gaming, you have to really get them hooked on, you know, and that's what we're learning right now. We're on the learning curve, and we're seeing that, hey, how we can minimize the steps of them getting engaged so faster, and you know, so that's what.
Ash?
I guess in terms of the trend that I've been seeing over the last 5-6 years is this element of me. And I don't know if you guys, Time Magazine named the person of the year as you a couple of years back, and they're usually smarter than we are, so I think we're just kind of catching up to that. But I'm finding that from a content perspective, the more relevant you can make the content, relevant to the individual, relevant to their environment, and get them engaged, that's going to be the real true win. You know, you look at situations right now where, you know, there's hundreds of TV channels, right? You know, and you see Nielsen ratings dropping across the board because there's just so much variety. Content producers, game producers need to make the content stick with the individuals so they start becoming your word of mouth, you know? So the people that like a product, you know, and I'll use Turbinizer as a bad example, but I didn't spend a penny on marketing. But I developed something that was fun for a small demographic of people, and they just start spreading it. And 25,000 downloads later, you start seeing that momentum piece. But it all has to be about the individual. And you know, if you're an agency, if you're a brand, if it doesn't resonate to your customer, then you really have to think twice about where you're putting your money and where you're allocating your budgets, because you probably won't get the ROI around it.
Ross, are you finding pitfalls and challenges in that, you know, you've got this vast library, the organisation goes back quite a few years. Is it willing to change? You know, you're there at the top. Are you having an easy ride in making all these changes with regards to moving into new areas?
Well, it's not an easy ride.
No.
But I think, as we've internally said, library is a great thing. It's either a gold mine or melting ice. And so as the CEO of the company, it's my responsibility to make sure that it does not become melting ice. And so we're looking for a wide range of partnerships. We're experimenting. We're going to put out our own iPhone, BlackBerry application for the first movie that we have coming out in the end of August, and be distributing around the region and talking to some folks about partnering with it. So, and doing it at a very low cost point. But still, I think it's important to listen. I would say listen and to experiment, but also not to get stuck in a particular way of doing things to the exclusion of listening to what either consumer or you know, wiser voices out there are saying.
Olivier, for you.
So I think when I came here in Singapore, I had a lot of people told me, yeah, in Singapore there was only pitfall in the game industry. You cannot develop everything, etc. People, creativity, etc., etc. I think my experience is for HD game. I'm talking about HD game. Is ideas are really cheap if there's no execution, and if you don't know how to execute your idea, which is a very, very difficult work in the HD environment, it's worth nothing having the best ideas. So and I saw too many company here around failing because they started from just a crazy idea, but not knowing how they would execute, not having the right team behind it, and executing, yeah, knowing exactly how to execute well this high quality content. So yeah, execution is everything.
And this thing about creativity, Olivier, it's a bit of a myth, isn't it? There is, you know, there are creative people in Singapore. And you know, you've had to do some training and all that sort of, no doubt, to build the skills here. But you know, you've been able to do it, yeah?
Yeah, there are creative people in Singapore. I think they have to gain confidence. And once they work with people who have this confidence, that have already worked and proved something, that's where they realize that, yeah, okay, I can do it. I understand what it means, and I understand what it means to be good in that field and to be creative. So. Yeah, I think that they are interesting people, but they need to gain experience and confidence.
Well, I think I'll leave the last word to the audience, actually. I'm just looking at the Twitter feeds, and there's been some interesting posts already. Just so you guys know, there's been a lot of Twitter activity already yesterday and today. The app Turbinizer has some 25,000 downloads. Awesome app for all Turbine lovers. No, it's not. It's not for Turbine lovers. It's for people like me. They cover up my head. I've done it already, by the way, so it's a great app, seriously. Brilliant app. Just watched a preview of Ubisoft's Ghost Recon Online, fully developed in Singapore. Awesome. There's a pool party tonight. Oh, sorry, that's not I'm supposed to say that. Okay, that's enough. I think we have 40 seconds, but we're going to let you go. Okay. Can I just hear you say a round of applause for our speakers, please? And thank you very much, and have a very good afternoon. Hope to see you very soon. Thank you.